The clock on the wall ticks steadily, each second stretching the distance between Imani and Dr. Delacroix. Sunlight slips through the blinds, laying pale stripes across the carpet and Imani's folded hands. She sits upright, shoulders tense, eyes flickering from the therapist's diploma wall to the polished shoes that never seem to move. Dr. Delacroix's pen taps a restless rhythm on her notepad, filling the space between them with an unspoken impatience. Imani clears her throat.
Voice soft.
It's hard to sleep. My chest feels tight all the time. Dr. Delacroix offers a practiced smile, the kind that doesn't reach her eyes. She glances at her notes, then at Imani, her gaze lingering just a moment too long before drifting back to her paperwork. School can be overwhelming, Dr. Delacroix says, her tone gentle but distant. A lot of students feel that way. She leans forward, elbows on the desk, but the gesture feels rehearsed. Imani nods, swallowing her. Words. The room is filled with the faint scent of lavender and the weight of things left unsaid. Imani's fingers twist in her lap, knuckles pale. She tries again. Sometimes I feel like I can't breathe, like I'm being watched. The therapist writes something down, the scratch of her pen louder than Imani's confession. A pause hangs in the air, heavy and expectant. Dr. Delacroix finally looks up, her smile tighter now. Everyone feels anxious sometimes. Maybe you're just sensitive. The words land softly but sting, erasing the depth of Imani's pain. Imani's jaw sets, her gaze steady, refusing to shrink under the weight of dismissal. The session drifts on, marked by small gestures. Imani's clenched fists, the therapist's shifting posture, the way the sunlight slowly fades from the floor. Every movement is a quiet struggle for dignity, every silence a battleground for belief. As the clock ticks on, the distance between them grows, filled with filtered sunlight and the quiet ache of being doubted. Before the story continues, please, let us know from where you are watching this video. Write your city or country in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like if you believe in stories that challenge injustice. Your engagement gives power to voices that need to be heard. Dr. Delacroix nods slowly, her smile tight but practiced. Everyone feels that way sometimes, she says softly, voice smooth but distant. Imani's words linger in the air, raw and unfiltered, but the therapist's response feels like a curtain closing. The room's atmosphere thickens, weighted with unspoken judgment. Imani's eyes flicker with a mix of frustration and resolve. She shifts in her seat, hands clenched in her lap. It's more than that, she says quietly. It's like I'm drowning, and no one notices. Her voice trembles slightly, but she holds her ground, refusing to be minimized. Dr. Delacroix glances at her notes, pen poised but unmoving. She offers a small, almost imperceptible shrug. Sometimes we read too much into things, she replies, voice calm but dismissive. The words hang heavy, a subtle dismissal that cuts deeper than any raised voice. The tension between them is palpable. Imani's quiet defiance against the therapist's cool detachment. A clock ticks steadily in the background, marking the slow passage of time and the widening gulf in understanding. The sunlight shifts, casting long shadows across the floor, mirroring the growing divide. Imani's jaw tightens, eyes fixed on a spot just beyond Dr. Delacroix's shoulder. She breathes deeply, steadying herself. I'm not just sensitive, she says, voice firmer now. I'm scared. And I need help. The words hang in the air, a plea met with a guarded silence. Dr. Delacroix's pen finally moves, scribbling, notes that seem to miss the weight of Imani's confession. Her smile returns, tighter this time, as if to smooth over the discomfort. We'll work on some mindfulness techniques, she suggests, voice light but dismissive. Imani nods slowly, the quiet tension thickening around them. The session continues, but the space between their worlds remains vast, filled with unspoken doubts and the heavy cost of disbelief. Dr. Delacroix's pen moved swiftly across the notepad, the scratch of ink filling the space between her and Imani. Her eyes rarely met Imani's, instead fixed on the symptoms she recorded, the checklist of a diagnosis that missed the story beneath. Imani's voice wavered as she described the nights spent awake, the tightness in her chest that no breathing exercise could ease. "It's like the weight never lifts," Imani said, fingers twisting in her lap. "I can't stop the thoughts." Dr. Delacroix nodded, her expression unreadable. The pen's rhythm never faltered, but the connection between words and understanding was absent. Imani's confidence flickered, the hope for being truly seen dimming with every note taken. A soft cough from the receptionist outside the door echoed faintly, a reminder of the world continuing beyond this room. The therapist's posture shifted, a subtle tightening of her jaw, betraying impatience. She glanced at the clock, then back to her notes, the act of writing becoming a barrier rather than a bridge. Imani's gaze dropped to the floor, the weight of being reduced to a list of symptoms pressing down. Her breath hitched, but she held herself upright, a quiet defiance in the face of dismissal. "We'll try some relaxation techniques," Dr. Delacroix said finally, voice light but distant. "It's important to manage the physical symptoms." Imani nodded slowly, the words feeling like a door closing rather than opening. The session wound down, the space between them filled with unspoken truths and the ache of being unheard. As Imani gathered her things, the pen paused, then resumed its steady scratch. The notes would be filed away, another record in a system that often overlooked the person behind the pain. The room's quiet tension lingered, a silent testament to the gulf between diagnosis and understanding. Imani's voice softened. "It's more than just symptoms. It's the fear that no one really listens." Dr. Delacroix's fingers tapped the pen against the pad. A brief hesitation before she wrote again. The room held a quiet weight, the unspoken gap between clinical detachment and human pain. A janitor passed by the door, pausing to glance inside, sensing the tension but saying nothing. The air was thick with the unvoiced struggle of being seen and believed. Imani's eyes met the therapist's for a fleeting moment, a silent plea for recognition. The pen resumed its scratch, the notes growing longer but the understanding remaining distant. "We'll continue to work on coping strategies," Dr. Delacroix said, voice steady but impersonal. "It's a process." Imani stood, the weight of the session settling in her shoulders. The door closed softly behind her, leaving the room filled with the echo of words unspoken and the quiet ache of dismissal. Imani sits upright, her voice calm but firm. "I'm trying to explain how it feels," she says, fingers tightening in her lap. "Like there's a weight I can't shake." Dr. Delacroix leans back, arms crossed, her gaze steady but unreadable. "We all have challenges," she replies, voice even. "It's about managing them, not letting them control you." The room holds a quiet tension, the air thick with unspoken resistance. Imani's eyes flicker with a mix of frustration and resolve. She breathes deeply, steadying herself. "I'm not just a case to manage," she says softly. "I'm a person." Dr. Delacroix's lips press into a thin line, a subtle shift in posture betraying a flicker of discomfort. She nods slowly, the usual confidence wavering. "Of course," she says, voice softer now. "We'll work together on strategies that fit you." Imani's gaze meets the therapist's, steady and unwavering. The power dynamic shifts, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. The session continues, marked by measured words and careful listening. Outside, a janitor pauses by the door, his eyes narrowing as he senses the change in the room. He nods slightly, a quiet show of support. The clock ticks steadily, each second a reminder of the slow but real progress being made. The sunlight shifts, casting long shadows that stretch across the floor, mirroring the journey ahead. Imani's voiceover reflects, "Dignity isn't loud, it's steady. It's the quiet strength to be seen on your own terms." The session ends with a soft exhale, a moment of calm in the storm. The door closes gently behind Imani, leaving the room filled with a new kind of hope. Imani's phone vibrates softly, the screen lighting up with a message. "You ready?" She glances up, a small, knowing smile breaking through the tension in her eyes. Dr. Delacroix remains absorbed in her notes, unaware of the shift in the room's energy. The therapist's pen taps a steady rhythm, but the sound feels hollow now, overshadowed by the quiet storm gathering just beyond the door. Imani's fingers brush the phone screen again, the message a lifeline and a challenge. Outside the office, footsteps echo faintly, determined, purposeful. Imani's breath catches, her heart steady but alert. The weight of what's coming presses, gently against her ribs, a mix of fear and resolve. Dr. Delacroix finally looks up, her eyes narrowing slightly, sensing the change but unable to grasp its full meaning. Imani meets her gaze, calm and unyielding, the silence between them charged with unspoken truths. A soft knock interrupts the moment. The door opens slowly, revealing Gabriel Lin, a local reporter with a quiet intensity. His eyes scan the room, landing on Imani with a nod of recognition. Gabriel's presence shifts the atmosphere, the usual stillness replaced by a subtle urgency. He holds out a recorder, a silent invitation to speak, to be heard beyond these walls. Imani's smile widens, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. She stands, the phone still in hand, ready to step into the light and share her story. Dr. Delacroix's lips press into a thin line, the first crack in her composed facade. The room feels smaller, the walls closing in as the quiet reckoning begins. The scene ends with Imani's steady gaze, the message on her phone glowing softly, a beacon for the change to come. Imani's earliest memories are painted with quiet wounds, teachers who doubted her answers, classmates whispering just loud enough to be heard, counselors who brushed off her fears with a casual wave. Each moment was a lesson in invisibility, a slow erosion of confidence that settled deep in her bones. She recalls sitting in a classroom, hand raised, only to be overlooked as the teacher called on others. The sting of being passed over was sharp, but the silence that followed was heavier. At home, her mother's tired eyes reflected the same frustration, a shared burden carried in quiet resilience. Flashbacks reveal the subtle ways systemic bias took root, report cards marked with vague critiques, disciplinary actions harsher than those for her peers, and the constant need to prove worthiness. Each incident was a thread in a tapestry of doubt, woven by a world that refused to fully see her. Imani's voiceover reflects on these moments, the weight of accumulated dismissals, shaping her anxiety. "It's not just one thing," she says softly. "It's every look, every word that tells you you don't belong." The scene shifts to a school hallway, where Imani walks alone, her presence barely acknowledged. The echo of footsteps surrounds her, a reminder of the isolation bred by systemic neglect. Yet, beneath the surface, a quiet strength begins to grow, a determination to claim space and voice. A teacher's glance lingers a moment too long, a subtle reminder of the barriers she faces. But Imani's gaze is steady, her posture unyielding. The shadows of her past are present, but they do not define her. The scene closes with Imani standing by a window, sunlight filtering through, casting fractured light across her face, a metaphor for the fractured journey ahead, marked by both pain and resilience. Rhonda Carter sits across from a panel of school officials, her hands folded tightly on the polished table. Her voice is steady but carries the weight of years spent fighting for her daughter. The officials nod politely, their expressions rehearsed, offering promises that sound hollow against the backdrop of repeated neglect. Rhonda's eyes scan the room, noting the subtle dismissals, a glance exchanged behind her back, a sigh barely concealed. She recounts Imani's struggles, sleepless nights, anxiety that tightens like a noose, and the lack of meaningful support. Each word is measured, a careful balance of frustration and determination. The officials respond with familiar phrases. "We're committed to improvement. Resources are limited. We'll review the situation." Their words are soft shields, deflecting responsibility without offering real solutions. Rhonda's jaw tightens, but she remains composed, refusing to let anger break her resolve. A counselor shifts uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. A teacher in the back fidgets with a pen, the tension in the room palpable. Rhonda senses the unspoken truth. Black families must fight harder, speak louder, and persist longer to be heard in a system designed to overlook them. Her voice softens as she speaks of hope, for change, for recognition, for a future where her daughter's pain is acknowledged and addressed. The room's atmosphere shifts slightly, the heavy weight of denial giving way to a flicker of awareness. Rhonda's gaze lingers on Imani's school file, a stack of papers thick with reports and notes that tell a story of missed opportunities. She knows the fight is far from over, but her presence here is a testament to unwavering love and fierce advocacy. The scene closes with Rhonda standing in the hallway, watching students pass by. Her eyes hold both exhaustion and fierce hope, a mother's battle that fuels the quiet revolution to come. Files lie stacked in a dimly lit office, their edges worn and yellowed. Each folder bears Dr. Delacroix's name, a quiet archive of complaints, tucked away and forgotten. The air carries the faint scent of old paper and dust, a silent testament to voices that were never truly heard. A secretary passes by. Her eyes flicker with a mix of sympathy and resignation. She pauses briefly at the door, then continues down the hall, leaving the weight of unspoken stories hanging heavy in the air. Flashbacks ripple through the scene, parents voicing concerns in hushed tones, students exchanging knowing looks, a counselor's tight smile masking discomfort. Praise for Dr. Delacroix's tough love approach echoes in staff meetings, a phrase that cloaks indifference behind a veneer of professionalism. The camera lingers on a faded letter, its words polite but firm. We appreciate your feedback and are committed to reviewing our practices. The letter remains unsent, a symbol of empty promises. Dr. Delacroix sits rigidly at her desk, eyes scanning a report. Her face is calm, but a subtle tension tightens her jaw. She taps a pen sharply against the wood, the sound slicing through the quiet room. A colleague enters, offering a brief nod, but no words. The silence between them speaks volumes, an unspoken pact to maintain the status quo. The scene shifts back. To the present, the folders closed and stacked neatly. The room stands still, a monument to a system that refuses to listen. Imani's voiceover cuts through the stillness. Sometimes silence is the loudest dismissal. The scene fades on the closed door, the echo of forgotten voices lingering. Imani sat on the edge of the therapy couch, her hands gripping the fabric as if holding onto a lifeline. Her breath came in shallow gasps, each one a struggle. "It's like the walls are closing in," she whispered. "And I can't breathe." Dr. Delacroix leaned forward, her voice calm but detached. "Have you tried your breathing exercises?" she asked, her gaze steady. "Remember, 4 counts in, 6 counts out." Imani shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "It doesn't work," she choked out. "It just makes me focus on not being able to breathe." The air in the office felt heavy, suffocating. The scent of lavender, usually calming, now seemed to amplify Imani's distress. Dr. Delacroix's expression remained unchanged, her tone gentle but firm. "Mindfulness is a process," she said. "It takes time and practice. You have to commit to it." Imani's gaze dropped to the floor, her hope flickering. She tried to focus on her breath, but the panic only intensified. "It's like you're not hearing me," she said, softly, her voice barely audible. Dr. Delacroix's pen clicked, a small sound that sliced through the tension. She adjusted her glasses, her eyes unwavering. "We're addressing the physical symptoms," she replied. "That's the first step." Imani's hands tightened, her knuckles white. The silence stretched, filled with the unspoken truth that the real pain was being overlooked, that the system itself was failing to see her. The camera focused on Imani's tear-streaked face, her expression a mix of desperation and quiet despair. The world tilted and the panic rose, the empty promises of mindfulness proving insufficient against the weight of systemic neglect. A bird's flight outside, visible behind Dr. Delacroix, offered a brief sense of freedom, a reminder of the liberation Imani desperately desired. The screen flickers to life, security footage playing in grainy black and white. Dr. Delacroix steps out of the therapy room, her face tight with barely concealed impatience. As Imani's door closes behind her, the camera catches a subtle but telling gesture, a slow, deliberate eye roll. The moment is brief, but heavy with meaning. The camera lingers on Dr. Delacroix's expression, a mix of frustration and dismissal that speaks louder than words. Her lips press into a thin line, the corners twitching in a fleeting smirk that vanishes as quickly as it appears. In the background, the muted hum of the clinic continues, oblivious to the quiet betrayal unfolding in its midst. A nurse passing by glances toward the monitor, her brow furrowed in concern before she looks away, caught between professional duty and discomfort. The footage cuts to a waiting room where a group of students sit in uneasy silence. One whispers, to another eyes darting toward the closed therapy doors. The weight of unspoken stories hangs thick in the air. Back in the security room, a technician watches the footage, his fingers hovering over the controls. He hesitates, then rewinds the clip, watching the eye roll again. His face tightens, a flicker of doubt crossing his features. The scene fades with the camera focusing on the closed door of the therapy room, the silence now charged with the knowledge of what was caught and what remains hidden. The quiet tension of the moment speaks volumes, proof that beneath the surface of care, dismissal and disbelief persist, captured in a single, telling gesture. Glow of Imani's phone screen cuts through the dim light of her room. A new message from Kayla Monroe appears. "She did it to me too." The words are simple but heavy, a lifeline thrown across the silence. Imani's fingers tremble as she types back, her voice barely a whisper in the dark. "You're not alone." The screen reflects in her eyes, a flicker of connection in the quiet night. Their conversation unfolds in short bursts, fragments of shared pain and understanding. Kayla's texts speak of dismissals, of being told to just calm down, of feeling invisible in a system that refuses to listen. Imani's replies are steady, a quiet anchor. The room is still except for the soft tapping of keys and the occasional sigh. Each message is a small act of rebellion, a refusal to let their stories be erased. The digital thread weaves a tapestry of solidarity, binding them in a shared fight. Imani's gaze drifts to a photo on her desk, a group of teens, smiling despite the weight they carry. The screen's light flickers, illuminating her determined face. The quiet power of their whispered truths begins to ripple outward. Outside, the city hums softly, unaware of the revolution growing in the shadows. The camera lingers on Imani's steady hands, typing, connecting, building a network of voices that will no longer be silenced. A notification pops up. Another message, another story. The thread grows longer, the collective strength undeniable. The quiet solidarity is a beacon, a promise that change is coming. Imani pauses, her breath steady but her heart pounding. She thinks of the countless others who have suffered in silence, their stories waiting to be told. The weight of responsibility settles on her shoulders, but she does not falter. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, then begin to type again. Each word is deliberate, a step toward breaking the cycle of neglect. The room feels charged, the quiet energy of resistance filling the space. The scene closes on Imani's face, calm but resolute, the weight of shared truth settling like a shield around her. Imani walks the school corridors, her footsteps soft against the linoleum floor. Teachers greet other students by name, their smiles warm and familiar, but when their eyes pass over her, there is a flicker of hesitation, a subtle shift away. She feels the weight of being overlooked, a quiet ache settling deep in her chest. Her gaze drifts to a classroom window where laughter spills out. a group of students sharing stories and smiles. Imani's presence is a shadow at the edge, unnoticed and uninvited. She tightens her grip on her books, the edges pressing into her palms, grounding her. A teacher's glance lingers a moment too long, a raised eyebrow and a slight purse of lips conveying unspoken judgment. Imani's jaw sets, her eyes steady, despite the sting. She breathes in slowly, the air thick with unacknowledged tension. In the hallway, a janitor pauses, watching Imani pass. His eyes hold a flicker of recognition, a silent nod of empathy before he turns away, the weight of the moment unspoken but shared. Imani's internal voice breaks the silence. It's not just being unseen, it's the constant reminder that you don't belong here, that your pain is invisible. She stops by a window, sunlight filtering through, casting fractured light across her face. The fractured light mirrors the fractured sense of self she carries, but her posture remains unyielding, a quiet defiance in the face of dismissal. The school bell rings, a sharp sound that cuts through the stillness. Students flood the halls, voices rising in a chaotic chorus. Imani steps forward, her stride purposeful, her presence undeniable. The scene closes on her steady gaze, a silent promise that the weight of being overlooked will not define her. Change is slow, she whispers, but it's coming. The camera lingers on the fractured light, a symbol of resilience and hope. A teacher nearby watches Imani, a subtle nod acknowledging the quiet strength she carries. Imani sits at her desk, a small recorder and notebook before her. The room is quiet except for the soft scratch of her pen and the occasional click of the recorder. Each story she writes is a quiet act of defiance, a refusal to let her pain be erased or forgotten. Her fingers trace the pages, pausing on each entry, a friend's whispered confession, a peer's trembling voice captured in text. The weight of these collected stories presses down, but also fuels her resolve. This is more than documentation. It is a shield against invisibility. The light from the window shifts, casting long shadows across the scattered papers. Imani's eyes are steady, her breath measured. She knows the risk, the loneliness of carrying these truths, but also the power in making them visible. A knock at the door breaks the stillness. A teacher peers in, offering a small, encouraging smile. "Keep going," she says softly before leaving. The gesture is brief but meaningful, a quiet acknowledgement of the battle being fought. Imani's voiceover reflects, "Every story is a step toward being seen. Every word is a claim to dignity." The camera lingers on the growing pile of notes and recordings, a testament to the slow but steady rebellion taking shape. The scene closes with Imani looking out the window, the city alive beyond, her resolve unbroken and her mission clear. Imani pauses, her fingers hovering over the recorder. She breathes deeply, the weight of responsibility settling in. "This isn't just for me," she whispers. "It's for all of us who've been told to stay quiet." Her phone buzzes softly, a message from Kayla. "We're with you." A soft smile breaks through Imani's focused expression. She picks up the recorder again, pressing play to listen to a voice trembling with fear but filled with hope. The room feels charged, the quiet energy of resistance growing stronger with every word captured. Outside, the city hums with life, unaware of the small revolution unfolding in this quiet room. Imani sits at her desk, the glow of her laptop illuminating a growing collection of screenshots, emails, and text messages. Each digital piece is a fragment of a larger truth, evidence of patterns too consistent to ignore. Her fingers move swiftly, organizing files into folders labeled with dates and names. The room is quiet, except for the soft tapping of keys and the occasional sigh. Imani's eyes scan each message, each note, searching for connections, for the threads that tie individual stories into a systemic tapestry. The weight of responsibility presses on her, but she remains focused, determined. Notification pops up, Another message from a peer, another story added to the growing archive. Imani's breath catches, the enormity of the task settling in, but so does the power in having proof. This is more than documentation. It's a shield against dismissal. Her phone buzzes again, a reminder of the world outside this room, but she stays rooted, the screen reflecting in her eyes. The camera lingers on the folders, the carefully curated evidence of a system's failure. A colleague's voice breaks the silence through a video call, offering cautious encouragement. "You're building something important," they say. Imani nods, absorbing the support but aware of the uphill battle ahead. The scene shifts to Imani's reflection in the window, the city lights flickering behind her. Her voiceover cuts through the quiet. Proof is the first step. Truth is the path forward. The camera zooms in on her hands, steady and purposeful, as she clicks send on an email addressed to school administrators and advocacy groups. The room holds a charged stillness, the calm before the storm of change. Imani leans back, a small, resolute smile touching her lips. The fight is far from over, but the foundation is laid. Imani's fingers hover over the keyboard, then begin to type, a thread that will soon ripple beyond her small circle. The screen fills with words. "When your therapist won't believe, you..." She shares her story, raw and unfiltered, a beacon for others who have felt dismissed. Notifications flood in, replies, shares, messages from teens who see their own pain reflected in her words. The hashtag, Listen to Black Teens, rises. Swiftly, a chorus of voices once silenced, now breaking through the noise. Each comment is a thread in a growing tapestry of reckoning. The room pulses with quiet energy as Imani reads messages of support and outrage. Her breath catches at stories of similar dismissals, the collective pain both heartbreaking and galvanizing. The screen's glow illuminates her determined face, a symbol of resilience in the digital age. Outside, the city moves unaware, but online, a revolution stirs. News outlets pick up the story, headlines questioning the system's failures. The weight of private suffering becomes public demand. Imani's voiceover cuts through the scene. "We are not invisible. Our stories matter." A friend's text pops up. "You're giving us all strength." Imani smiles, the quiet power of connection filling the room. The camera lingers on the growing number of notifications. A digital tide rising, unstoppable, and fierce. The scene closes with Imani's steady gaze, the screen reflecting the faces of those who have joined the fight. The quiet rebellion has become a roar. The school's administrative offices buzz with hurried footsteps and low murmurs. Phones ring off the hook, emails flood inboxes, and the usual calm is replaced by a palpable urgency. Staff exchange nervous glances, their faces tight with the weight of unfolding events. In a glass-walled conference room, the principal paces, rubbing his temples. His assistant shuffles papers and fields calls, struggling to keep up. The counselor team gathers, their usual composed demeanor cracked by whispered concerns and furtive looks. A teacher leans against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching the chaos with a mix of apprehension and relief. "It's about time," she murmurs, voice barely audible. Another staff member nods, eyes darting toward the leadership huddle. Emails, marked urgent, pile up on desks, reminders of the system's failure to act sooner. The IT technician pauses, watching social media feeds explode with the hashtag #ListenToBlackTeens, the digital uproar impossible to ignore. In the hallway, a janitor stops sweeping, his gaze lingering on a mental health awareness poster. He shakes, his head slowly a silent witness to the gap between words and reality. The principal stops pacing, turning to face the group. "We need a plan," he says, voice steady but strained. "This can't be swept under the rug anymore." The room falls into a heavy silence, the weight of accountability settling in. The camera lingers on faces marked by doubt, resolve, and dawning realization that change is no longer optional. Outside, the school bell rings, its sharp tone cutting through the tension. Students move through halls, unaware of the storm brewing, behind closed doors. The scene closes on the principal's clenched fist, a symbol of frustration and the first steps toward transformation. Dr. Delacroix sits at a corner table in a quiet cafe, the hum of conversation swirling around her like a distant storm. Her phone screen glows with news articles about the school's sweeping reforms, mental health initiatives, and the growing movement for change. Her name appears only in passing, buried deep within comment threads and footnotes, a fading echo of a once commanding presence. She scrolls slowly, each swipe a reminder of the distance growing between her and the world she once influenced. Headlines celebrate new counselors, diverse hires, and student-led advocacy groups. The words sting, but she reads on, searching for a defense, a sign that her perspective still matters. A former colleague enters the cafe, eyes briefly meeting Dr. Delacroix's before quickly shifting away. The unspoken message is clear. The old guard is no longer welcome. Dr. Delacroix's shoulders tighten, a subtle shiver running through her frame as she lowers her gaze. Around her, the cafe buzzes with life, teachers discussing the positive changes, parents sharing hopeful stories, students laughing with newfound confidence. The atmosphere is charged with renewal, a stark contrast to the isolation settling over Dr. Delacroix. She types a message to an old friend, her fingers hesitating over the keyboard. The reply never comes. The empty chair across from her feels heavier, a symbol of lost influence and fading authority. The bitterness of her coffee matches the taste of regret. She watches a young woman at the counter glance her way, offering a tentative smile before turning back to her work. The warmth of the cafe feels distant, the exile complete. Dr. Delacroix closes her phone, her eyes fixed on the window where the world moves forward without her. The scene lingers on her solitary figure, a quiet portrait of a legacy unraveling in real time. The boardroom is packed, the air thick with anticipation and quiet tension. Parents, students, and members of the press fill every seat, their eyes fixed on the podium where Imani stands. Her hands tremble slightly, fingers intertwined as she takes a deep breath, steadying herself against the weight of the moment. Dr. Delacroix sits nearby, her posture rigid, eyes darting nervously around the room. The usual confidence is replaced by a fragile unease, a subtle shift in power that is palpable. Whispers ripple through the crowd, a low murmur of expectation and judgment. Imani's voice breaks the stillness, soft at first, but growing stronger with each word. She reads from her journal, the pages thick with stories of pain and resilience. Each testimony is a thread in a tapestry of truth, weaving together the experiences of those who have long been overlooked. The camera lingers on faces in the audience, some nodding in solemn agreement, others exchanging uneasy glances. A parent wipes a tear, a student clenches their fists, the collective weight of shared stories pressing down. Dr. Delacroix's hands tremble slightly as she clutches a folder, her eyes fixed on the floor. The veneer of control cracks, revealing the internal collapse beneath. Her lips press into a thin line, a silent admission of the reckoning unfolding. A board member clears their throat, breaking the heavy stillness. The room holds its breath, the moment suspended between past neglect and the possibility of change. Imani's gaze sweeps the room, steady and unwavering. Her voice, calm but resolute, carries the power of quiet justice. "We are here because our stories matter," she says, the words hanging in the charged air. The scene closes on the room, a tableau of reckoning and hope, the first cracks in a system long resistant to change. Imani's voice fills the room as she unfolds pages from her journal, her hands steady despite the weight of the moment. Each line she reads is a story, pain etched in ink, a mosaic of voices once silenced. The room listens, the air thick with the gravity of shared wounds. Board members lean forward, eyes scanning the words, some faces tightening with discomfort, others softening with empathy. A mother wipes a tear discreetly while a student's clenched fists speak of long-held frustration finally voiced. The press scribbles notes, capturing the raw honesty that cuts through polished statements and rehearsed defenses. A teacher exchanges a glance with a colleague, their expressions a mix of guilt and resolve. Imani's voice remains calm, the cadence deliberate, each testimony a quiet demand for recognition. The journal becomes more than paper. It is a mirror, reflecting systemic failures and the resilience of those who endure. Dr. Delacroix shifts in her seat, fingers tightening around a pen, the weight of the written truth pressing against her composed facade. Her eyes flicker with a fleeting vulnerability before she masks it with a controlled breath. The room's silence is punctuated by the soft rustle of pages turning, the collective heartbeat of a community confronting its own shortcomings. The power of written pain is undeniable, a force that transcends spoken words. Imani pauses, letting the stories settle like dust in the air. The boardroom holds its breath, the moment pregnant with possibility and reckoning. The camera lingers on the journal's worn cover, a symbol of the courage it takes to bear witness and demand change. The scene fades with Imani's steady gaze, a beacon of quiet strength amidst the storm. Imani stands at the center of the boardroom, journal in hand, its pages thick with stories of pain and resilience. She raises it slowly, the gesture quiet but seismic, a challenge to the comfort of those seated around her. The room leans in, some faces marked by shame, others by defensiveness. The journal is more than paper. It is a mirror reflecting the system's failures. Board members exchange uneasy glances, the weight of ignored voices pressing down. A mother wipes a tear discreetly, a student clenches fists, the collective burden palpable. Dr. Delacroix sits stiffly, clutching a folder, eyes fixed. On the floor, the veneer of control cracks, revealing the internal collapse beneath. Her lips press into a thin line, a silent admission of the reckoning unfolding. A board member clears their throat, breaking the heavy stillness. The room holds its breath, suspended between past neglect and the possibility of change. Imani's voice is calm, but resolute, carrying the power of quiet justice. This journal holds the stories we've been denied. It's a testament to our strength and a call for accountability. Wasabi. Camera lingers on the journal's worn cover, a symbol of courage and the demand for change. The scene closes on Imani's steady gaze, a beacon of hope and resilience. The air is thick with unspoken emotions, the weight of years of dismissal finally pressing into the room's fabric. A teacher shifts uncomfortably, glancing at a colleague, their eyes reflecting a mix of guilt and resolve. The press scribbles notes, capturing the raw honesty that cuts through polished statements. Imani's voice softens. We are not just voices on paper. We are real. We are here. And we demand to be heard. Dr. Delacroix's hands tremble slightly, the folder slipping from her grasp. She quickly catches it, but the moment reveals the fracture beneath her composed exterior. A student in the audience exhales sharply, the sound breaking the tension. The room seems to lean forward, the collective energy shifting from confrontation to possibility. Imani lowers the journal, her eyes scanning the room, meeting those who have long ignored the truth. This is not just my story, it's ours. And it's time for change. The scene fades with the camera focusing on the faces of those present, some marked by regret, others by determination. The journal remains in Imani's hands, a symbol of resilience and the power of truth. Dr. Delacroix's voice is low, rehearsed, almost mechanical. I was following best practices, she says, eyes darting nervously around the room. Her hands tremble slightly as she clutches a folder, the weight of mounting evidence pressing down on her. The boardroom is silent but charged, every eye fixed on her. The usual confidence she wore like armor is gone, replaced by a fragile veneer. Her lips press into a thin line, betraying the internal collapse beneath the surface. A board member exchanges a glance with a colleague, their faces a mix of skepticism and quiet disbelief. The phrase "best practices" hangs in the air, hollow and insufficient against the flood of stories and evidence laid bare. Imani's gaze is steady, unyielding. She meets Dr. Delacroix's eyes without flinching, the power dynamic shifting palpably. The room feels smaller, the walls closing in as the therapist's defense crumbles under the weight of truth. Dr. Samuel Price, clinical director, watches silently from the side, his expression unreadable but heavy with judgment. His presence is a reminder that institutional accountability is no longer optional. A subtle cough breaks the tension, a board member clearing their throat to regain control. The atmosphere is thick with the collapse of privilege, the slow unraveling of a system once protected by silence and denial. Dr. Delacroix's voice falters, the rehearsed lines losing their grip. She glances toward the exit, the urge to flee palpable but restrained. Imani's voice cuts through the stillness, calm but firm. Best for whom? The room exhales collectively, the question a quiet reckoning. The therapist's facade cracks, the moment marking a turning point in the fight for justice. The scene closes on Dr. Delacroix's trembling hands, the folder slipping slightly before she catches it, a symbol of a defense that can no longer hold. Imani's voice is steady, calm, but firm. Best for whom? She asks, letting the question hang in the heavy air. The room holds its breath, the weight of years of dismissal pressing down. Dr. Delacroix's hands tremble slightly, the folder slipping before she catches it. Her eyes dart to the door, the urge to escape palpable but restrained. The usual armor of confidence is cracked, revealing vulnerability beneath. A board member clears their throat, breaking the silence. The tension is thick, a quiet reckoning unfolding in the room. The power dynamic has shifted. Imani's quiet strength exposes the fragility of the defense. Dr. Samuel Price watches from the side, his expression unreadable but heavy with judgment. His presence is a reminder that accountability is no longer optional. Imani's gaze sweeps the room, steady and unwavering. Justice doesn't need to shout, she says softly. It's relentless and it's quiet. The room exhales collectively, the moment marking a turning point. The collapse of privilege is visible in every nervous glance and faltering breath. The scene closes on Dr. Delacroix's trembling hands, the folder a symbol of a defense that can no longer hold. The room holds a heavy stillness as Dr. Samuel Price sits quietly at the edge of the boardroom, his gaze steady but unreadable. His presence is a silent sentinel, a reminder of the weight of institutional responsibility resting on his shoulders. He watches the exchange between Imani and Dr. Delacroix, the tension thick but contained. His fingers rest lightly on the table, a subtle contrast to the storm unfolding around him. The quiet authority he exudes speaks volumes without a single word. A board member shifts nervously, glancing toward Dr. Price for guidance. He offers a slow, deliberate nod, signaling the gravity of the moment. His eyes meet those of the therapist, conveying a message of accountability that needs no voice. The room seems to hold its breath, the collective gaze drawn to Dr. Price's calm demeanor. His silence is not absence but presence, a powerful force that underscores the reckoning underway. Imani's voice cuts through the quiet, steady, and resolute. Dr. Price's expression remains unchanged, but a flicker of approval passes through his eyes, a subtle acknowledgement of the courage before him. A staff member clears their throat softly, breaking the tension. Dr. Price leans back slightly, his posture relaxed but alert, embodying the balance between authority and empathy. The camera lingers on his face, capturing the weight of leadership in moments of crisis. His watchful stillness is a beacon of hope, signaling that change is possible when those in power choose to listen. As the scene closes, Dr. Price's gaze shifts to the window, the cityscape beyond a reminder of the broader world waiting for transformation. The quiet accountability in the room is a first step toward justice. The room is dimly lit, papers and digital devices spread across a long table. Gabriel Lynn stands at the front, holding a thick folder filled with complaints, emails, and recorded testimonies. His voice is calm but firm as he lays out the evidence, each document a piece of the puzzle exposing systemic failure. Board members lean forward, their faces a mix of shock, guilt, and defensiveness. A mother wipes a tear discreetly, a teacher shifts uncomfortably in her seat. The weight of the uncovered truth presses heavily in the air. Gabriel's words cut through the silence. These files represent voices that were ignored, stories that were dismissed. The evidence is clear. This is not an isolated incident. Dr. Delacroix's hands tremble slightly as she clutches a folder, her usual composure faltering. Her eyes dart to the exit, then back to the mounting proof against her. The veneer of control cracks, revealing the internal collapse beneath. A board member clears their throat, breaking the tension. "We cannot ignore this any longer," they say, voice steady but heavy. The room nods in reluctant agreement. The camera pans to a janitor standing quietly by the door, his expression somber, a silent witness to the reckoning unfolding. Gabriel closes the folder with a soft thud, the sound echoing in the stillness. "Accountability begins here," he states, his gaze sweeping the room. The scene ends with the boardroom filled with a charged silence, the slow awakening of a system forced to confront its own failings. A young board member shifts nervously, glancing at her notes before meeting Gabriel's steady gaze. "How long has this been going on?" she asks, voice barely above a whisper. Gabriel nods solemnly. "Years. Complaints buried, voices silenced, but now the truth is undeniable." Across the room, Dr. Delacroix's breath catches. Her fingers tremble as she folds and unfolds a piece of paper, the weight of exposure pressing down. A teacher in the back clears her throat, her eyes moist. "We owe it to the students to do better," she says softly. The principal leans forward, his hands clasped tightly. "This is a turning point. We must rebuild trust." The boardroom is thick with anticipation as the vote begins, hands rising slowly, deliberately, some trembling slightly. Each raised hand signifies a silent concession, a reluctant acknowledgement of the exposed truth. The room feels weighted, charged with accountability. Carter shifts, feet rooted to the ground, his body stiff as a board. He knows that this vote marks an end of his time here. It's hard to leave, but he knows it's for the best. Greg remains seated, jaw clenched, his knuckles white against the table. His gaze is distant, haunted by the realization that this could be his professional end. He never meant for the pain that has been inflicted on the patients. A board member fidgets with their glasses, hesitating for a moment before lifting their hand. The weight of their decision is palpable, the responsibility etched in their furrowed brow. Vernon stands tall, calm and steady, a pillar of quiet strength amidst the storm. His eyes sweep the room, his gaze a steady beacon of justice. He has earned his spot here today. Dr. Sandra Keating's voice cuts through the tension, her tone firm but laced with weariness. This vote is not merely about retribution. It is about safeguarding the principles on which our organization stands. Justice must prevail. Hands lower, the decision unanimous. Carter slumps back in his chair. Greg lets out a shaky sigh. The tension finally broken. The room exhales collectively. Outside, nurses and staff gather in hushed groups, their faces etched with cautious optimism. A new chapter starts here for everyone. The scene closes on Vernon, his eyes reflecting years of struggles and quiet victories, a symbol of resilience and the enduring power of hope. Imani steps into the boardroom, the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. The room, once filled with tension, now holds a quiet anticipation. She takes a seat at the long table, the polished surface reflecting the faces of those who once doubted her. Her hands rested calmly on the table, fingers intertwined. The board members exchange glances, some nodding in approval, others watching with cautious hope. The power dynamic has shifted. Imani's presence is a silent assertion of change. A board member clears their throat, breaking the stillness. "We recognize the courage it takes to stand here," they say, voice steady. "Your voice will help shape the future of our mental health, our programs." Imani nods, her gaze steady. "Thank you. I'm here to listen, to learn, and to ensure that no one else feels unheard." The room responds with a subtle shift. Smiles soften, shoulders relax, The atmosphere is charged with possibility, a collective commitment to transformation. Dr. Samuel Price, seated nearby, offers a small approving nod. His presence is a reminder that institutional change is within reach when voices like Imani's are heard. Imani's voiceover begins, calm and reflective. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us who have been silenced. Together, we can build a system that listens. The camera lingers on Imani's face, illuminated by the soft glow of the overhead lights. Her expression is one of quiet determination, a beacon of hope in a room once shadowed by doubt. The scene closes with the boardroom bathed in warm light, the promise of a new chapter unfolding. "Change is slow," Imani whispers, "but it's coming." A young student sitting near the back watches her with wide eyes, a silent promise passing between them. The room, once a place of judgment, now feels like a space of possibility. A teacher leans forward, voice soft but sincere. "Your courage gives us all hope." Dr. Delacroix sits in her office long after the boardroom empties, the city's lights flickering against the window pane. Her chair creaks as she leans forward, elbows on the desk, hands pressed to her temples. The day's events replay in her mind. Imani's steady voice, the board's verdict, the hush that followed every exposed truth. She can still feel the eyes on her, the collective judgment settling in the air. She glances up, catching her reflection in the darkened glass. The image is fractured, split by the glare of a street lamp outside. She studies her own face. The lines deeper, the eyes tired. The certainty that once defined her, now replaced by a raw, unfiltered doubt. Her office, once a place of authority, feels unfamiliar. The shelves lined with awards and certificates seem to mock her, reminders of a reputation built on routine and control. Her phone vibrates with a new message, but she doesn't reach for it. Instead, she turns a framed photo of her first graduating class face down, unable to meet the gaze of students she once believed she helped. The silence is thick, broken only by the distant hum of the city and the faint ticking of the office clock. She stands, crossing to the window, pressing her palm to the cool glass. The world outside moves on. Cars pass. People laugh in the street below. Life continues. But in this room, time feels suspended. She whispers to her reflection, "How did I not see it?" Her voice is barely audible, a confession meant for no one. A soft knock sounds at the door, but she remains still, unwilling to face anyone. The realization settles in. Power, once lost, is not easily regained. The authority she wielded so effortlessly has dissolved, replaced by an ache of regret, and the slow, painful understanding that her legacy is no longer here to define. As the night deepens, Dr. Delacroix lowers herself back into her chair, eyes fixed on the window. The reflection stares back, older, uncertain, and profoundly changed. In this quiet, she begins to reckon with what comes next, the first fragile step toward accountability. Word count, 386, next subheading. If you'd like to continue, please provide the next subheading and I'll write the script for it. Dr. Delacroix sits at a small table by the cafe window, her posture rigid, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that has long since gone cold. The cafe is alive with the sounds of laughter, the clatter of dishes, and the low hum of conversation. But she exists on the periphery, unseen, unacknowledged. Her eyes stay fixed on her phone, scrolling through articles about the sweeping changes in the school district. Headlines celebrate new counselors, student advocacy, and reform, but her own name appears only in passing, buried in the comments, a footnote to a story that has moved on without her. A group of former colleagues enters, their laughter bright and familiar. One glances her way, recognition flickering in his eyes, but he quickly looks away, choosing a seat as far from her as possible. Dr. Delacroix's shoulders tense, her fingers tightening around her cup. She listens as their conversation drifts. Over, "The new team is really making a difference," one says. "It's about time students felt heard," another replies. Each word lands like a quiet blow, a reminder of the distance between her past influence and her present irrelevance. She types a message to an old friend. "Hope you're well. Miss our talks." But after a moment, she deletes it, unwilling to risk another unanswered silence. The empty chair across from her is a stark reminder of meetings she once led, decisions she once made. Now, every ignored greeting and every empty seat marks another tally in her growing isolation. The barista calls out orders, never meeting her eyes. The warmth she once found in routine is gone, replaced by a chill that seeps into her bones. She watches as a young teacher at the counter glances her way, offers a brief, uncertain smile, and then turns back to her group. Dr. Delacroix sighs, the weight of regret settling in her chest. She gathers her things, leaving quietly, her absence as unnoticed as her presence. The cafe's warmth is for others now. She steps into the street, the world moving briskly around her, her exile complete. Dr. Delacroix sits alone in her dim apartment, the glow of her laptop casting shadows across the room. She scrolls through news articles and social media feeds, watching as the story of the school's reforms unfolds without her. Her name is mentioned only fleetingly, buried beneath headlines celebrating change and progress. Comments flood in, some angry, some relieved, many indifferent, each one a reminder of how far she has fallen from grace. The screen reflects in her eyes, tired and distant. She clicks through article after article, the narrative clear. The system is moving on and she is left behind. The achievements she once claimed now feel hollow, replaced by a growing chorus demanding accountability. A message notification appears, an old colleague reaching out with cautious sympathy. But she hesitates, unsure if she's ready to respond. The silence that follows is heavy, filled with the echoes of lost influence and fractured trust. Her gaze drifts to a framed photo on the wall, her graduating class, smiling and hopeful. The image feels like a relic from another life, a stark contrast to the isolation she now endures. The weight of regret settles deep, the realization that rebuilding what was lost will be a long, uncertain journey. Outside, the city pulses with life, unaware of the quiet unraveling occurring behind. Closed doors. The apartment feels colder, emptier, a reflection of the void growing within her. Dr. Delacroix closes the laptop slowly, the screen fading to black. She leans back, eyes closed. The silence a stark reminder that legacy is fragile and easily forgotten. The scene ends with her reflection in the window, blurred and fragmented, a symbol of a reputation fading into the past. Imani sits in a circle of mismatched chairs, her calm presence anchoring the group of teens gathered around her. The room is simple, but the energy is warm, a safe space carved out of years of feeling overlooked. One by one, the teens begin to share, their voices hesitant at first, then growing stronger with every story told. A boy with nervous hands looks down, voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I was the only one who felt this way." A girl beside him nods, her eyes shining with understanding. "Me too. I never said anything before." The group listens. No one interrupts, each story weaving a tapestry of struggle and hope. Imani leans forward, her tone gentle but steady. "You're not alone. We're here for each other, no matter what." Her words settle over the group like a blanket, quieting the doubts that once defined them. Kayla, sitting across from Imani, wipes away a tear and offers a shaky smile. "You changed everything," she whispers as the meeting ends, pulling Imani into a tight hug. The embrace is brief but full of gratitude, a silent acknowledgement of the courage it takes to lead by listening. Around the circle, teens exchange glances of relief and newfound confidence. The group's quiet solidarity is a living answer to the isolation they once felt. The walls, once witnesses to silence, now echo with the gentle strength of shared experience. A counselor peeks in, offering a thumbs up before closing the door. The group's laughter rises, tentative but real, filling the space with hope. Imani's voiceover lingers as the scene fades. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is listen. The school counseling office is transformed. A space once cold and impersonal now feels alive with warmth and empathy. New counselors, diverse in background and experience, greet students with genuine smiles and open arms. Their presence is a quiet revolution, a visible sign that the old culture of dismissal is being replaced. Imani walks through the hallway, pausing to watch a counselor gently guide a nervous student into a private room. The counselor's calm voice and attentive posture speak volumes. Here, every voice matters. A plaque on the wall catches the light, its simple message clear. Every voice matters. Teachers and staff exchange hopeful glances, the atmosphere charged with subtle but profound change. The receptionist offers Imani a nod of recognition, a small but meaningful gesture of support. The hum of activity is different now, less rushed, more intentional. In a corner, a group of students gathers, sharing stories and laughter. The walls seem to breathe with new energy, the echoes of past neglect replaced by the promise of healing. Imani's quiet smile reflects the shift she helped ignite. A counselor approaches, offering a brief word of encouragement before moving on to her next appointment. The scene captures the ripple effect of change, small moments building towards a larger transformation. Imani's voiceover threads through the scene. Change is often quiet. It starts with listening, with presence, with the courage to believe. The camera lingers on the plaque once more, its words a beacon for those who enter. The old barriers crumble, replaced by trust and dignity. Outside the window, the schoolyard buzzes with life, the future unfolding in the faces of the students who now feel seen. The scene closes on Imani's steady gaze, a symbol of hope rooted in resilience and the power of quiet change. Rhonda Carter stands quietly in the school hallway, watching Imani lead a group of students with calm confidence. The changes are visible. Teachers greet students with warmth. Counselors listen intently, and the atmosphere hums with respect and hope. Tears well in Rhonda's eyes, a mix of pride and relief. She recalls the long battles fought, the countless meetings where her concerns were met with polite dismissal. Now the walls echo with laughter and genuine connection, a stark contrast to the silence of the past. Rhonda's gaze lingers on a new plaque in the counseling office. Every voice matters. A teacher nearby offers a nod of approval, their eyes reflecting the shift in culture. Rhonda's heart swells with cautious optimism, knowing the journey is far from over but hopeful for the future. She steps forward, joining the circle of students, her presence a quiet testament to the power of persistence and love. The scene closes on Rhonda's face, illuminated by soft light, a symbol of a mother's unwavering fight and the promise of change. The school hallway buzzes softly with the chatter of students and staff, a stark contrast to the tense silence that once filled these walls. Rhonda's eyes scan the faces around her, noting the subtle but profound changes. The way teachers now pause to listen, the gentle encouragement offered to students who once felt invisible. She remembers the countless times she stood in similar halls, her voice raised in frustration, only to be met with polite nods and empty promises. The weight of those moments lingers, but today there is a different energy, a sense of progress born from relentless advocacy. A young counselor approaches Rhonda, offering a warm smile and a brief word of thanks. Their exchange is quiet but meaningful, a passing of the torch from one generation to the next. Rhonda feels a swell of hope, knowing that her fight has paved the way for this new chapter. Outside the window, sunlight filters through, casting a golden glow that seems to bless the scene. Rhonda's gaze softens as she watches a group of students laughing together, their joy a testament to the change taking root. Her thoughts drift to Imani, whose courage and resilience have sparked this transformation. Rhonda's pride is tempered with humility, aware that the journey toward true equity is ongoing but heartened by the strides made. The camera lingers on Rhonda's face, capturing the quiet strength of a mother who refused to be silenced. Her eyes glisten with tears, not of sorrow, but of hope and determination. As the scene fades, Rhonda's voiceover whispers, "This is just the beginning." Imani steps into the boardroom, the weight of the moment settling on her shoulders. The room, once filled with tension, now holds a quiet anticipation. She takes a seat at the long table, the polished surface reflecting the faces of those who once doubted her. Her hands rested calmly on the table, fingers intertwined. The board. Members exchange glances, some nodding in approval, others watching with cautious hope. The power dynamic has shifted. Imani's presence is a silent assertion of change. A board member clears their throat, breaking the stillness. "We recognize the courage it takes to stand here," they say, voice steady. "Your voice will help shape the future of our mental health programs." Imani nods, her gaze steady. "Thank you. I'm here to listen, to learn, and to ensure that no one else feels unheard." The room responds with a subtle shift. Smiles soften, shoulders relax. The atmosphere is charged with possibility, a collective commitment to transformation. Dr. Samuel Price, seated nearby, offers a small approving nod. His presence is a reminder that institutional change is within reach when voices like Imani's are heard. Imani's voiceover begins, calm and reflective. "This isn't just about me. It's about all of us who have been silenced. Together, we can build a system that listens." The camera lingers on Imani's face, illuminated by the soft glow of the overhead lights. Her expression is one of quiet determination, a beacon of hope in a room once shadowed by doubt. The scene closes with the boardroom bathed in warm light, the promise of a new chapter unfolding. "Change is slow," Imani whispers, "but it's coming." A young student sitting near the back watches her with wide eyes, a silent promise passing between them. The room, once a place of judgment, now feels like a space of possibility. A teacher leans forward, voice soft but sincere. "Your courage gives us all hope." Imani stands quietly in the school hallway, the soft murmur of students and teachers around her. Her voiceover begins, calm and steady. "Change doesn't roar. It whispers, then it moves mountains." The words echo softly, a gentle reminder of the power in quiet resilience. She watches as new counselors greet students with warmth, their presence a stark contrast to the cold indifference of the past. A teacher nearby nods approvingly, a subtle smile playing on her lips. The atmosphere is charged with hope, a slow but undeniable shift. Imani's gaze drifts to a plaque on the wall. "Every voice matters." The words catch the light, shining, like a beacon. She touches the plaque lightly, a silent vow to carry the message forward. In a classroom, students share stories, their voices growing stronger with each telling. The camera lingers on their faces, hopeful, determined, unbroken. The quiet revolution is alive in their eyes. A janitor passes by, pausing to watch the scene. His expression is one of quiet pride, a witness to the change unfolding. Imani's voiceover continues. "It's not the loudest voices that bring the deepest change, but the steady ones that refuse to be silenced." The school bell rings softly, a gentle call to action. Imani steps forward, her stride purposeful, her presence a symbol of dignity reclaimed. The scene shifts to a group of students gathered in the courtyard, their laughter and chatter a sign of healing. A young girl looks up at Imani, eyes wide with admiration. Imani smiles softly, a quiet connection passing between them. Nearby, a teacher adjusts a poster promoting mental health awareness. The words, "You are seen," bold and clear. The camera lingers on the poster, a symbol of the new culture taking root. The sun breaks through the clouds, casting warm light across the school grounds. Imani breathes deeply, feeling the weight of the journey behind her and the promise of the future ahead. The scene closes on Imani's steady gaze, the light catching the determination in her eyes. The world outside is quieter, but beneath the calm, a revolution grows roots. Change doesn't roar, she whispers, but it moves mountains. Imani steps out of the school building, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow across her face. Her reflection in the glass doors is clear and unbroken, a symbol of the strength she carries within. The world around her hums softly with the sounds of students leaving, laughter mingling with the rustle of backpacks. Her footsteps are steady, each one a quiet assertion of the journey she has traveled. The weight of past struggles lingers, but it no longer defines her. Instead, it fuels a calm determination that radiates from her every movement. Inside, the school feels transformed. Walls once heavy with silence now echo with voices of hope and resilience. A plaque near the entrance reads, "Every voice matters," catching the sunlight and shining like a beacon. Imani pauses, her gaze lifting to the sky, the soft breeze carrying the scent of blooming flowers. The city beyond the school gates is alive, vibrant, and full of possibility. She breathes deeply, the air filling her lungs with a sense of renewal. A group of students nearby share stories and smiles, their energy a testament to the change taking root. A teacher watches from a distance, nodding with quiet approval, the shift in culture evident in every interaction. Imani's voiceover begins, calm and reflective. The world may seem quieter now, but beneath the calm, a revolution grows. It's in every whispered hope, every steady step forward. The camera lingers on her reflection once more, the glass capturing the light and the promise of a future shaped by dignity and justice. As she walks away, the sun dips lower, casting long shadows that stretch toward tomorrow. The scene closes. On the school, alive with the quiet power of change. Change doesn't roar, Imani whispers, but it moves mountains.